Hey guys, so just wanted to catch you guys today for another book tour video. We did shelves 1 and 2 the other day, and today we're going to be tackling bookshelves 3 and 4. There are 6 total that I'll be going through, and then if anyone is interested, I can also do a tour of my husband's bookshelves, although I might have him try and join me for those videos because a lot of the books that he reads are very educational and for smart people, which is not me. So I will definitely see if he's willing to film that video with me. But this is installment 2 of 3 covering the bookshelves. And so without further ado, let's hop into the video and go through all the books. Now this is a longer video, so please don't forget to grab your favorite coffee, soda, water, drink, whatever you're feeling before you sit down so you're hydrated throughout the video as you're hanging out with me. And if you do enjoy bookish content and you want to hang out for a little bit longer, definitely hit that subscribe and notification bell, and I will be sure to see you soon. I put out videos on Wednesdays and Sundays, and that being said, I will be delayed potentially in posting Sunday's video this time as I am taking a short break and am out of town, but I'm usually pretty regular with those Wednesdays and Sundays updates. So if you're like me and you're obsessed with anything books, then I would love to see you on my channel. And without further ado, let's hop into the video. Hey guys, so we're going to be covering these bookshelves here today. So this is going to be the first bookshelf, and then this will be the second bookshelf. Now these have been reorganized quite a bit, so there will probably be more that get added to this, more changes that will come in the future. But without further ado, we will get started. So starting over here in this corner, we have the Lucy Score books. So these are 2 new ones that I recently picked up. These seem like the murder mystery vibes, and I just love how cute these covers are. So this one is called The Corpses in the Closet. It's a Riley Thorne novel, so I think she is supposed to be our resident detective. Summer is heating up for this reluctant psychic and her handsome private investigator boyfriend. So my bad, I totally mistook that. It is actually going to be her being a psychic and her boyfriend being an investigator, but this sounds like it's a book 2. First, Riley's disapproving grandmother arrives, determined to make Riley finally take her power seriously or else face the wrath of the guild. Then even worse, there's the homicide detective who needs Riley's help figuring out who murdered the well-dressed corpse in the walk-in closet. So I feel like this one should be fun to read as a sequel. And then the first book in this series, I believe, is The Dead Guy Next Door. If there is supposed to be a book before this, please let me know. But Riley Thorne in this book is divorced. She has hallucinations. And then her mom is convinced she's clairvoyant. And so she ends up basically discovering that she has psychic gifts, and she pairs up with Nick Santiago, who's an investigator who seems kind of grumpy sunshine vibes, basically where she being the sunshine, him being the grumpy. But basically they work together in order to solve this mystery and whodunit situation with this murder. So I think this should be fun to read, and it basically gets thrilling because they have to solve the murder before the killer decides to come after Riley. So as always, I'm always down for a Lucy Score book, but this one just sounds like it's going to be so much fun to read, and so I am particularly pumped for this one. Sorry guys, it doesn't want to go back into the shelf. There we go. Then we have By a Thread. This is one of my all-time favorites. I read this book, I want to say back in February, gave this a solid 4.5 stars. Great fun read and fast-paced book. The epitome, I think, of Grumpy Sunshine. Just so much fun to read. I love Dominic's character in particular, and Allie is a close second in this. I haven't read these, but they go together. Mr. Fixer-Upper and The Christmas Fix are 2 books that were written together. So I do think I'll probably read these closer to December time just because it's in the same setting in the same town. But very excited to read these. And I've heard rave reviews about Things We Never Got got over, Things We Hide from the Light, and Things We Left Behind, which is, of course, the Knock 'em Out series. And so I'm really, really excited to get to these. I do think I'm probably going to touch on these either instead of reading the Red Rising series this April or potentially getting to these in May. I do have the Red Rising series on my TBR, so I'm hoping to do the TBR books, but I'm also slightly mood reading this April, so we will see when I finally get back with my books read for the month. And then we have these 4 books that go together. These are the Dirty Air series written by Lauren Asher. And I just love these covers. I don't know what it is about the covers that I particularly love, but I do love them. And then here we have Collided. Again, just look at that cover. Isn't that gorgeous? There's just something about her covers that make me happy. And the sounds of books thwacking against the bookshelves. I'm sorry about that. Here's Wrecked by Lauren Asher. And then Redeemed by Lauren Asher. This one's probably my favorite cover. I love those floral prints. Then we have my bookmark all in one. I love to collect bookmarks, in case you guys can't tell. I just absolutely love to do that. In fact, most of my friends will get me bookmarks at some stage just as a fun celebration of my quirkiness. This, of course, is the Billionaire series by Lauren Asher. So I have all 3 of these as well. I started reading the fine print and then soft DNF'd it just because I wasn't quite in the mood for it, but it gave me Beauty and the Beast vibes. I don't know why. I don't think that's what it's about at all, but that's just the vibes I got from it. And so I felt like it was more of a fall read for me, but I will definitely be getting to these for sure this year. They're definitely looking like they're going to make it to top choices once we start hitting the fall, maybe even sooner. We'll see. But that's the vibes I was getting. And then Final Offer is the 3rd one in this series. So we have the fine print, Terms and Conditions, and Final Offer. Then she started writing a new series with the Lakefront Billionaires. And this is the first book in that series called Love Redesigned. She does have the 2nd book coming out this June. And that is a beautiful pink cover. I've already pre-ordered it and I'm very excited to read it. So we'll see when that comes out to add to our lovely shelf here. And then after that, if there's a 3rd book in this series, we're just going to have to figure out a new way to organize these, but that's half the fun of bookshelves. Then we come down to the 2nd shelf here, and starting off, I have the Dial A for Aunties books. This book was hilarious. I really had a lot of fun reading this. I heard about this book from Haley Pham when she reviewed it on her channel, and I just thought it was so entertaining to hear about this that I had to pick up the copy and read it for myself. So basically, this girl gets roped in to helping her grandmothers take care of catering at a wedding. And in the midst of doing all of this, there's a murder that occurs. And it just so happens that the hotel at which this wedding is taking place is also where her ex-boyfriend is, who was the love of her life. And they kind of bump into each other. So very, very funny series of events that continue from there between the bride, the missing groom, and everything else that's going on. And then of course the murdered guy. So this was just a really funny book to read, and the aunties are just so funny. So I went ahead and picked up the 2nd book, and then I watched Haley's review of this book, and it just seemed like it wasn't nearly as good, which kind of set me off, but I'm sure I will get to this book eventually. I just think the setting was so cute, and I really do love the aunties and the way that they're described. So I am very excited to read that eventually, but just didn't end up finishing it at the time because I was put off about it just a little bit. Finley Donovan is killing it. It's probably one of my favorite series of all times. I love, 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 love these books. Solid 5-star series for me. It's basically a situation where you have a single mom who's a struggling author who is basically dealing with her horrible ex-husband who constantly tries to get under her nerves, is now dating this new supermodel girlfriend, and they're about to move in together. They're fiancé now because he just proposed to her, and he's constantly coming around to drive her insane, and she's just trying to make ends meet, and she really relies on her babysitter Vera, and she ends up going to a cafe to meet with her editor. And the concept of her book is kind of like murder mystery vibes. And so when she's talking about this book with her editor, someone overhears her and thinks she's a contract killer and basically hires her to murder someone and take care of the body. And so she gets trapped into this very, very dangerous mob scene situation, and Vera gets dragged in with her. And it's basically about how they deal with the circumstances they're thrown into. Absolutely hilarious series. So much fun. Just the craziness those girls go through are absolutely incredible while being a single mom and trying to build a relationship with the very hot detective while also writing successful books and dealing with her ex-husband. It's just so much fun to read. Would strongly recommend this series. We're now 4 books into this series, and there's also a novella about Vera's character, who is the sidekick in this series. And I ate these up. Love, love, love these books. The second book in this series is called Finley Donovan Knocks Him Dead. The third book is Finley Donovan Jumps the Gun. And then last but not least, we have Finley Donovan Rolls the Dice. And so this one is basically taking place, I believe, in Vegas. This one took place at a detective camp. This one and this one are both happening live time in her hometown. So just so much fun to read. Would definitely recommend, and just absolutely beautiful written books. These 2 books I haven't quite gotten to yet, but they've been talked about very highly. Powerless by Lauren Roberts. Wow, that rolled off my tongue, didn't it? Julia Roberts? No, not at all. Lauren Roberts. Is basically like enemies to lovers. It kind of gave me Hunger Games vibes, where basically there's like competitions going on between the ordinary and the people with power. And basically there's a girl who's pretending to be that she has powers, but she's actually an ordinary. And so they end up going through purging trials, and it's a brutal competition. And she and the other male character are thrown together in this series where they have like banter going on, and there's clearly feelings for each other, but he's essentially there to find out if there's any ordinaries and get rid of them. So high stakes vibes, romanticy, and it just had the greatest reception. And I've seen a lot of people rave about this online on BookTube. So I am planning to read this very soon. It is on my physical TBR, but I realized I probably want to read it end of May, beginning of June, so that I'll be ready when the second book comes out, because I love to read a series continuously. That being said, it's kind of the same thing for Serpents and the Wings of Night. This is part of the Crowns of Nyaxia duology, but I just saw that there's a third book coming out as well. So I don't know if it's supposed to be a trilogy now, or if it's that the third book is like a spin-off set in the same world, but with different characters. So I'm not 100% sure. But basically the Serpents and the Wings of Night, and the second book in the series, which is the Ashes. What was the title? Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry, guys. I forgot what the title of the second book is called. But I do know there's 2 books in this Crowns of Nyaxia series. The second book I can't find anywhere. And when I finally found it, they only had the paperback version. And this was the new release of this book. And I have to say the cover of this book is stunning. Like, I absolutely love this hardback cover. So I'm kind of waiting for the new release of the reprint for the second book for this series in hardback, and that is releasing in June as well. So both of these will be read closer to June timeframe, so that I can continue the series when the second books come out for them. Then we have Lynn Painter's books. Oh, hello. I don't know why the camera decided to turn around and face me. Let's turn it back around. Maybe. No, we're still learning how to use the camera. How's it going, guys? So you're getting a nice little tour of my office, but let's get back to the bookshelves here. So there we go. Coming back into fake focus, we have Lynn Painter's books. Lynn Painter is one of my favorite authors. Her adult books, I would say, are usually like standard 3-star books. They're very entertaining, fast-paced reads, but her young adult books like pull at your heartstrings. They're amazing. Better Than the Movies is probably my favorite one. So cute, solid 5-star read, following characters Wes and Liz, and they are basically going through series of ridiculousness. And he basically helps her, quote unquote, land the perfect guy by being her fake boyfriend and eventually realizing that they're perfect for each other. And he's kind of been the annoying guy next door the entire childhood ages of her life, but they end up being perfect for each other. So beautiful, beautiful, beautiful sunshine vibes book. The Do-Over was really fun too. This is basically this girl who keeps reliving Valentine's Day until she quote unquote gets it right. Very much like Groundhog Day vibes, but just very well written, very fun book. And then Betting on You was also really, really fun read. Very cute young adult book about two people that keep bumping into each other who have parents that have just gone through ugly divorces. And it's about how they feel about romance and love and relationships, and how he's convinced that a girl and a guy can never be friends, and they're going to prove that wrong. And so again, very, very cute. Does involve some fake dating tropes as well, but just super entertaining and very enjoyable book. Definitely would recommend. Then we have the American Royals series. So this is the final book in the series that was released, I think, end of last year or beginning of this year, which is the only book I have not read. But basically the concept of this series is that you're living in modern day America, but what it would have looked like if we had a monarchy and if Washington had taken on the role of being king instead of president, and what the royal family stories would look like. So very, very entertaining young adult world, very easy to jump into, not hard to follow at all because it's still set in modern times, meaning cell phones, clothes, college, all of that is the same. It's just that instead of going to rich kid schools in New York, you're literally partying it up at the palace. So very, very entertaining read. It was really cool seeing the different characters' struggles in terms of their identity based on where they were in the royal sibling list, as well as the relationships they had with other characters. I like the fact that each book kind of just dives into the female character leads a little bit more. It's primarily told from the perspective of four main female characters, one being the best friend of the middle sister, who's the princess, one being the princess, who's the middle sister, who really doesn't know what her role is and is going through growing pains, Beatrice, who is basically the next in line for succession and the eldest, and her feelings of stress of being the queen apparent, and also having to deal with the fact that she has to find, quote unquote, the right king when she comes into a leadership position, and also grooming herself to be a great leader for the country and the responsibility that comes with that. And then last but not least, the girlfriend to the youngest prince, who is trying to find her way into a position of power because that's what she's always been taught to do, but having to decide between politics and power versus love. So just very, very beautifully written series. Very excited to read Rain. But this is more of a summer vibes for me. So again, we'll get to that book probably in June or end of May. And then The Ravens and the Monarchs are basically following a coven of witches in their college town, Greek vibes. Very, very entertaining, very fast. Both have some murder that goes on in the books, and there's definitely some murder mystery things going on, but also a lot of concepts of sisterhood and Greek life and just college vibes in general. So very, very fun, beautifully written books. Moving on to the second shelf. This is where a lot of my special edition books are as well. But over here in this corner, we have some randoms that I stacked together. Sweet Little Lies and LA Candy are two books that were written by, I want to say Lauren Conrad. Yes, Lauren Conrad. And they're LA Candy novels, basically following, girls in the limelight and in the LA life. So very entertaining. I read these back when I was in high school. To be quite honest, I don't remember a lot of what goes on in this book. Maybe I'll reread them and kind of see where I stand on them now. But I remember thinking that they were very entertaining at the time. Kind of reminded me of the A-list vibes in Gossip Girl, but fun, fast-paced reads. Then underneath that, I have the P.S. I Still Love You, Always and Forever, Lara Jean, and To All the Boys I've Loved Before. This was turned into movies on Netflix, and I absolutely ate them up. I love this young adult series. I reread them all the time. And if I don't physically reread them, I usually pull out chapters that I enjoy and like to read. So would definitely recommend this series for anyone who's looking for a fast, fun-paced young adult series. Rainbow Rowell Fangirl. This book is okay, in my humble opinion. I really only bought it because it's the special edition, and I love, love, love the special edition. Look how cute that is. Look how cute and Christmassy. And then it has painted edges with the coffee cup. And then we have the Read to Me Sweetheart, and then another coffee cup. And so I just had to get this when it came out as a special edition. I don't know why. It's the 10th anniversary edition and I love it. So that's really the only reason that's there. Anyways, moving on. Then we have Sanctuary of the Shadow. This was a book that was very popularly talked about in my book club. And so some of us decided to go ahead and invest in it in the hopes that one day we'll read it as a group. But I also love this cover as well. It's also a special edition cover. And let's read the inside because I don't actually remember what this is about. For humans, the circus is a place filled with wonder and amazement. For Harrow, however, it's a place to hide from those who slaughtered her entire clan. Disguising her abilities as part of her act has kept her true identity safe for years until he arrives. A strange new attraction with no name, no memory of who or even what he is, let alone an explanation for his odd yet deadly powers. But beneath the layers of anger and isolation, one glimpse into his inky eyes reveals a soul that calls out to the loneliness in her own. And so she chooses him. Harrow is drawn to the darkness, to her insatiable need to soothe the beast who threatens their very existence. But with every secret she unlocks from his past, another from hers whispers free as well, luring enemies who will stop at nothing to get their final revenge on Harrow. And she's afraid she's given them the perfect weapon against her, because he's not what he seems. But maybe it's time they finally learn. Neither is she. So I think this will be a really fun book of, identity, journey, as well as the romance in this book. So I'm really excited to see what this has to offer. And I'm thinking I will probably tackle more fantasy books this May. So it'll probably be on my book list TBR for next month. Then we have Iron Flame and Fourth Wing. Now, I absolutely loved Fourth Wing, just like the craze that was going on everywhere on BookTube for this book. And then Iron Flame, I think, did fall short, but I'm very interested in seeing what she does from here. I do think that the romance was poorly done in Iron Flame, because I do feel like she tried to redo the enemies to lovers after they had already become friends, which was very confusing to me. But I think overall, like where she took the story and how it ended, I am intrigued to see where we go from here. And I'm also curious to see what additional powers Violet will get in the third installment. And I believe it's coming out sometime this year. So I am looking forward to that. Then these are the Red Rising series books, the first 3 in the series. So I am actually trying to read these this April. In fact, this might be the next book that I start. So I might record my reactions to these. I may not, but I will keep you guys posted on my thoughts on this, and it should hopefully show up in our April wrap up. Then I have these 2 beautiful, beautiful books from Illumicrate. This is the Ladies' Guide to Fortune Hunting. And just look at this cover, guys. Look at this cover. Isn't that stunning? And then the best thing about this is I love this little fan. It's a little cutout. Like you can see it's an actual cutout. There's my finger. And then when you open it, you have all these beautiful metallic fans on the inside for this one. And then this is the other book that they did, which is The Ladies' Guide to Scandal. And again, has the painted edges in pink and then the floral print, and also has the little cutout here. Ooh, maybe I can do it that way. There we go. Little cutout here with the ink well and the feathers. So just really stunning books. These are basically like Bridgerton vibes books as well, set in Regency times, following some strong female lead characters. So I am excited for those books as well. As you can see, a lot of these books have not been read yet, but that's half the fun. Over here, I have some of my young adult series. So I have the Once Upon a Broken Heart series by Stephanie Garber. I did end up getting these from the British collection because they're beautiful. The British third book, Curse for True Love in paperback, is releasing soon, and I have pre-ordered it because it'll complete the set, and it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful pink and red cover as well. But these covers are just so gorgeous. I love these covers, and so I'm really excited for me to have the complete set of these books. They're just stunning. But I really enjoyed this series. This was a 5-star series for me. I would strongly recommend them to everyone. Super easy to get into. The world is very easy to understand, and it's so much fun. It can be read as a standalone series, but I personally did enjoy reading the Caraval series first, which brings me to this series, which is Caraval, Legendary, and Finale. And I will say that these books are so much fun, so fast paced. I honestly, like, as soon as I finished one book, I had to read the next book. And I know, depending on which characters you're going for, Caraval follows Scarlet, the older sister. Legendary follows Donatella, the younger sister. And then Finale is with both of them and their love interests. I think in Legendary, the male character was more intriguing than the male character in Caraval, but I really don't care for Donatella. I found her very, very selfish. So she as a character was difficult for me to appreciate, but I really loved Scarlet and I loved her romance story in Caraval. And I think Finale was beautifully done with both sisters kind of coming together to resolve all the issues that were going on. But overall, a very, very fun series. I love the characters that are introduced. I love Jax, who's one of the fates that's introduced in this collection of books. And it's just such a fun setting, like the balls and the masks and being in this magical world and having all of these fates that are, villainous, but also just looking for their own fulfillment and their own joy and have their own interesting backstories, as well as following the stories and tales of these young women who are just trying to create their futures. It's just very well done overall. I think great series. I would strongly recommend Stephanie Garber's books for anyone who's just looking for a little bit of intrigue, a little bit of fun, and a quick escape. Then I have over here, the same author who wrote the Cinder series. So this is Marissa Mayer's books. These are her superhero versions, not superhero versions of Cinder, but her superhero trilogy series. This is also something that was really celebrated on BookTube. And so I'm really excited to dive into these as well. A lot of people describe this as a 5-star series, so I'm very excited for it. But this is Renegade, Arch Enemies, and Supernova. So if I do get to these, I will definitely let you guys know. I think these are more like sci-fi vibes. And so I might actually do a sci-fi collection of books, in which case I might end up reading these 4 books, which I'm going to talk about next. So this is Scythe, Thunderhead, The Toll, and Gleanings. And this series is basically a dystopian society where nobody ever dies unless scythes come after you and take your life. And so, again, kind of has that sci-fi-y vibe. I've heard great things about this series. A lot of people describe it as a 5-star series as well. So I'm very excited to read these as well. So that's why I was saying I may or may not get to the Red Rising series this month. I was thinking about reading them this month, but I might save them for like a different sci-fi month and just do these 3, these 4, and these 3 for that month. But I don't know yet. So just in case the books are not what they line up for what I said I was going to read this month, that's why. Then I have 2 standalone books. This is part of the Disney books that were written where basically they change up the story and find a kink in the classic Disney movies that we all grew up with loving and kind of add a fun twist to it. So it's a twisted tale series basically. And this particular one is based on Hercules, which was my favorite movie as a child. And so this one's concept is basically what would have happened if Meg had become a Greek god. I have read the Little Mermaid version of this and it was really entertaining to read and fun. You still get to see all the classic characters, Flounder, Sebastian, Ariel, the prince, Ursula, but it was just with a slight twist to it. So that was really fun to read. And then this one, I'm very curious to see what would have happened if Meg had become a god and how that would have affected her relationship with Hercules. Then we have Skin of the Sea, which is another young adult book. This one was also very popular when it first came out. And this was actually one of the books that was given out as part of Once Upon a Book Club's book collections. That's how I heard about this book. I haven't read it yet, but I just thought the cover was so beautiful. And I remember reading the inside of the book and thinking this sounds really interesting. So I do hope to read it eventually. It's just that every time I look at it, I haven't really felt a strong desire to pick it up, but I shall. I promise I shall. I shall read it and I shall get back to you guys on what it's about. But for now, it's just chilling on my shelf. Then coming down to this shelf here, we have 2 main series on this end. We have the Holly Black, the Elfhame series. So basically you have the original trilogy with The Cruel Prince. Then you have the duology with the Stolen Heir, and The Prisoner's Throne. Now, all 5 of these books and both of these series are supposed to be really entertaining and popular. In fact, these are considered like great starting series for fantasy. And the reason why I haven't read them yet is because these were a very kind gift from one of my book club members. We did a Secret Santa, and she was kind enough to get me all 3 of these books. So something about it just makes me want to read them in December, which is why I haven't gotten to them yet. And then I also feel like I can't read these until I read these. But I was very excited to buy these, and they were recently displayed in one of my hauls. If I haven't posted it before this, then it should be coming out soon. But the covers on these are absolutely gorgeous, and these are the special editions from Barnes and Nobles. These are basically classic Disney stories as well, but with a twist, including Fae. So Heart of the Raven Prince, I believe this one is based on Cinderella. Yeah, I think this one is supposed to be based on Cinderella. And this one was the most popular one. There's like 5 or 6 of these different books. So I decided to get 2 of them and kind of see how I like them, and then get more if I was interested. I started reading this and then DNF'd it just because the language wasn't speaking to me. And at that time I was getting into the Wicked Kingdom, or Kingdom of the Wicked, sorry. And so I ended up focusing on Carrie Maniscalco's Kingdom of the Wicked instead of these. But I do plan on coming back to these as well. A lot of these where I just say I'm going to come back to them. I'm sorry, guys. A lot of these are like have not been read yet, but that's half the fun, right? And then this is A Taste of Poison, which, as you can see by the cover, is kind of a take on Snow White. So I am excited to see where we go with these 2 books. And then we have all of the Jennifer Lynn Barnes. And I finally get to say I've read the majority of these. Yay! Good job, Jayshree. So we have the Inheritance Games, the Hawthorne Legacy, the Final Gambit, and the Brothers Hawthorne. This series was absolutely incredible. Solid 5-star reads for me. Basically, they are novels about these brothers who are extremely, extremely wealthy and have a very extremely wealthy grandfather who has billions and billions of dollars and crazy, crazy family members. And he basically dies, and he's written a will, and he's given all of his money to this random girl off the street that none of them have ever met before, but is basically like the 16-year-old girl who's now looking at owning billions of dollars. And so it basically follows the storyline of the different twists and turns that these characters take. But I think overall, it's very, very well written and very enjoyable. Then this is the Natural series. Now, these books were my first introduction to Jennifer Lynn Barnes, and I can honestly say these were 5-star reads for me. I have read them more than once. I absolutely adore these books. I would definitely recommend them. Basically, the storyline goes that these kids are born with either gifts or, in certain circumstances, where they have to hone a certain skill. So, for example, being able to detect when someone is lying, slipping easily in and out of people's heads like a profiler, or being able to do ridiculous kinds of math in your brain, like just very, very fascinating skill sets that these kids have picked up. And so basically the FBI recruits them to solve cold cases. And in the midst of all of this, they get caught up in some real-time serial killer vibes situations as well. But just very, very beautifully written series and very, very fun. If you like a Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, then you would definitely enjoy these. I would strongly recommend these. I personally enjoy these more than those books because I love that FBI kind of solving cases vibe. But definitely, definitely love Jennifer Lynn Barnes, which brings me to these 2 books. This is a duology that she had written, Little White Lies and Deadly Little Scandals. And I think it's similar to Pretty Little Liars vibes, but I haven't actually had a chance to read this yet. So I am looking forward to reading these as well. And these are hopefully going to be read this month if I have enough time. But I am hoping to get to these books. And so that is the tour of bookshelf numero 3 in my collection. Sorry guys, my Spanish is quite terrible. So that's where we're at with that. So moving on to bookshelf number 4. So over here, I have all of the Harry Potters back home in my childhood home. I have all 7 books in hardback. I have them in paperback. I have every possible version of Harry Potter. I have all 7 of them on my Nook. I have them on my Audible app. Like, I love Harry Potter, but I got particularly excited about these because these are the illustrated versions. And unfortunately, the 6th and 7th of these books have not been released yet. But guys, look how beautiful this is, right? Like, just look at how gorgeous that is. Isn't that stunning? Like, I can't even begin to explain how beautiful these illustrations are. But I really love rereading the Harry Potter books every year. And so I usually reread them every April, but I think this year I'm not going to read them this April. I probably end up like focusing on them again in the summer, closer to my birthday. Growing up as a child in June, every single year for my birthday, I used to read the Harry Potter series. And so here we go. Now I have all of them in the lovely illustrated editions. So that was the Sorcerer's Stone that I just showed you guys, and I absolutely adore it. I fully intend to get the rest of the series as they release, but so far only the first 5 books in this series have been released at this time. But we will definitely be collecting the rest of them. Also, the illustrator who was basically writing these books, he decided he didn't want to be on the project anymore. So I think they're looking for a new author or illustrator for the rest of the books. So that's also what's taking time. Then we have the Lore Olympus series, the books that have been released so far. These are by Rachel Smith, and it's basically following the story of Persephone and Hades. It does have some trigger warnings in it, but overall very well done. Beautiful, beautiful illustrations, and it is done in a comic style, but I really enjoy these. I would strongly recommend them to anyone who likes a good comic. But yeah, the illustrations these are just absolutely stunning too. I'm sorry, I keep dropping things everywhere, by the way, but you can see like just really, really quick, fast, fun reads. But they are in comic form and following the story of Hades and Persephone. Then coming on up here, we have the Shatter Me series. I don't know why my camera is being special, so I do apologize. But we have the Shatter Me series here. So we have all of those books plus all of the novellas. So of course the concept of this series is that there is a girl who basically has these insane powers, but if she touches anyone, she will kill them. And so she's kind of being kept as a secret weapon, and she ends up on various quests and situations where she has to save herself, save the people she believes in, figure out who's actually on her team and who's not on her team. That's like a very, very vague gist of that. But I've heard the romance in this series is absolutely phenomenal as well. I do plan on reading Shatter Me at some point this year and doing a full series read with me. So if you're interested in that, definitely stay tuned, and I'll give you guys my thoughts as I read through this and hopefully film some reactions for you guys too. Then I have the 4 books on The Horseman by Laura Thalassa. I've heard really fun things about this. Again, these book covers are just so beautiful. Basically, they have all of these patterns like blown up on the covers, but they're so beautiful. But you have all 4 horses of the apocalypse. So we have pestilence, war, death, and famine. So I do hope to get into these, again, fall vibes for me, probably October timeframe. So I am looking forward to reading these then. Then I also have Hooked, which is basically a darker version of Peter Pan, where Hook and Wendy may have had some kind of relationship at some point in the book. And so I'm very curious to see what that relationship would have looked like, and I look forward to jumping into it. Then we have some classics. We have The Handmaid's Tale, The Great Gatsby, and Valley of the Dolls. I don't know why they're on this shelf. I couldn't really find anywhere else I wanted to put them, and I like the colors of this together. But Valley of the Dolls was a great read. It really speaks to what it was like to be a woman back in like the 80s and the 90s, especially around Hollywood. And it was really interesting to read the stories of these three female characters as they intertwine with each other. The Great Gatsby, as we all know, is about the glitz and the glam, but how it can like blow up in your face. Another great classic, a fun, fast-paced read. Definitely something that I recommend everybody read if you haven't read it yet. And then The Handmaid's Tale, I think, hits home a little too hard, especially with the current political climate in our country, but it basically follows the story of Gilead being in charge of the United States, where women's rights have basically been torn away, essentially. And a lot of women who have the ability to have children are now being forced into positions where they are essentially a handmaiden that is just around to breed babies for richer society members who are unable to conceive with their own wives. So very interesting, dark, twisted tale. It was also turned into a Hulu series that got great reviews and was very enjoyed by the public, but it's all based off of this Margaret Atwood book. And then years and years later, she actually wrote The Testament, which is the second book to this series that is written 15 years after this one has taken place. So that one was also very fun and very good to read. I don't have my copy of The Testament here right now. It is currently back home in my childhood home, but I do hope to bring it back when I go visit home this weekend. Then over here we have the Lydia Asher books. This is basically following the story of a witch and a warlock who keep finding themselves in trouble. It has talking cats in it. And basically the way that this was promoted is a lot of people who had read it and described it were like, oh, if you like Harry Potter, you should read this series. I would say that seems very true. It does start off more kiddish, fun, like silly, kind of like Sorcerer's Stone. And then as the books proceed, it gets a little bit more deeper, a little bit more older in terms of the tone and the vibes and the language of the book. But overall, a very fun series. And I would definitely recommend for anyone who likes Harry Potter or magical stories with like crazy cats that are talking as well. Then I have the Sarah Dessen books. I can't say enough about these books. These were some of my absolute favorite books when I was in high school. And I still reread them all the time till date, but just really strong female characters. And they do talk about interesting concepts, a lot of like finding sense of self and young adult coming of age books, but very fun, fast-paced reads. And I would definitely say very summer vibe reads, but beautifully written books. And I will read just about anything that Sarah Dessen puts out. Then we have some eclectic collections of books. So a lot of these here are my nonfiction and like memoir type books. So we have Britney Spears, we have the Jeanette McCurdy, then we have Glennon Doyle, we have Think Like a Monk and Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now and New Earth, Viola Davis, Mindy Kaling. So just like nonfiction over here. And if I do read these, I tend to not rate them because they are not really books that I think deserve rating as much as it is about someone sharing their story. And I don't think anyone's story deserves to be rated. Then I have some random works of fiction. So this was given to me by a good friend, and she was saying that it's a fun, fast-paced, like whodunit kind of book. And so I do plan on reading that when I get back to my thriller phase. I just got out of reading a lot of thrillers for March, so I'm not really in that mood right now, but I will definitely be getting to this. This one was a book that I picked up when we were in Australia, Chai Time at Cinnamon Gardens. It just seems like it's really fun, following the story of a bunch of eclectic people who are in this beautiful setting where they all get along, and then someone comes in and tries to screw it up and bring prejudices into the mix. And so it's about how the characters in this book find their way to balance again. And I think it'll just be a fun contemporary novel. Then Chemistry is a romance novel that's following the character of this PhD who's finishing her chemistry degree, but doesn't know if that's truly what she wants to do. She's also not really feeling her doctor boyfriend, and it's about her finding her sense of identity. And I also picked this up because my husband is a chemist and he was tickled pink that I had this book. Campaign Widows was a book that we read for one of my book clubs, as was Maud. Both of these I think are very fun books, and I think Campaign Widows would actually be very apropos for this November as well, for anyone who wants something that's like a mood read. Mademoiselle Chanel is a fictional novel that's basically based loosely on Chanel's, actually, I wouldn't say loosely, very strongly based on Chanel's actual life, and follows her story and tells it in a fictional way, filling in the gaps for anywhere where there was mysterious or unclear findings about her history in the past. But anyone who's into fashion and wants to read that story, I would strongly recommend this. It was very well written, very beautifully written, and you definitely feel like you're in that time frame and that time period. Then I have Before the Coffee Gets Cold, and this is another one of those books where it just forces this main character to think through what her life would have looked like, and she gets to ask questions and relive certain experiences while she's drinking her cup of coffee. Kind of gives me Midnight Library vibes, and I really enjoyed that one, so very much looking forward to reading this book as well. Then we have the Agatha Christie section. I'm not going to get into this too much. I have a lot of her books. I just absolutely adore Agatha Christie. I've probably read 60 to 70% of these. I will say my absolute favorites are, where is it? Death in the Clouds is one of my absolute favorites. I also really love Death on the Nile. And then I also love Five Little Pigs. The Man in the Brown Suit is a great standalone. Crooked House is absolutely wonderful. Sad Cypress is really good. Sparkling Cyanide is good. I mean, there's very few books by her that I would say they're not good. But I think overall, I will say when it comes to Agatha Christie, I prefer her standalones over the Hercule Poirot books, only because I think after a certain point, the Hercule Poirot books become a little bit predictable. But overall, I mean, there's a reason why she is the mistress of murder. Like, absolutely well written, very well researched, very thorough novels written by this amazing author, and I'm so thankful to have this many books of her collection. Then I have my little vampire section. So I have the entire Twilight series, as well as Midnight Sun, which is Edward's take on Twilight. These were like childhood memories for me. I used to love these books when I was in high school. My parents surprisingly got into them too. My dad's watched all the movies and everything with me. I hate the movies, but I love these books, and so I still have them. Then I have the entire, oh, these are the roses I dried out and put over here. I just felt like they were appropriate for the vampire vibes. Then I have the Crave series, which was written by Tracy Wolff, and I will say that these were really fun to read as well. I think the first 4 books are my absolute favorite. Charm, in my humble opinion, was okay, but I do think it was kind of fun, and it can be read anywhere in this series. I personally would have preferred to have read this book between Crave and Crush. I think that's where that book would have set in better. It's a standalone story of what's going on inside of the female character lead's head after the Crave book at the ending, when it just kind of suddenly ends on the cliffhanger where it does. So I would recommend reading it as Crave, Charm, Crush, Covet, Court, and then Cherish as the final book when they're all back in the world that they were in Charm. But overall, a very well written series. Really enjoyed them. But yeah, just some fun, fast-paced vampire vibes. Then we have the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. This was a book I believe we also read for one of my book clubs. Very entertaining, very fast-paced, great for October vibes, but definitely vampire vibes. Then we have Bride, which was Ali Hazelwood's entrance into paranormal novels, and so it's basically following the story of this vampire bride who's basically engaged to this wolf. From what I've heard about this book, the storyline is fun, but the romance is a little confusing and a little overly fast-paced, but I have heard good things about it overall. And then last but not least, I have My Roommate is a Vampire. This is just a fast, fun mood read. I would say this works great for October. Very entertaining, very fall vibes, very cute romance novel, and would strongly recommend it to anyone who's into vampires. But that is the conclusion of Bookshelf Tour for bookshelves number 2 or 3 and 4. I hope you guys enjoyed. That being said, I will catch you on the flip side when we come back to tour bookshelves number 5 and 6. But I hope you guys enjoy this little tour with me. And if you do have any questions, or if you have any comments on any of the books that I have listed here, please don't hesitate to let me know. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you guys soon. Bye, guys.